Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all honor, all praise, and all glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Arachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the tabernacle of David, the hopeful elect, that have scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Now, before I, make my initial response to this live that was done. This the leader of Watchmen for Israel, Naquam. He used to go by the name of Adam Abbott. I think that was the name of their old channel. And he's one of the guys that he learned up under different Israelite camps, and then he segued and pretty much came up with his own thing and started his own camp. We've had run-ins, back and forth before, primarily dealing with the topic of the mark of the beast, the MOTB, in which in this lesson here, he actually goes into it, or he attempts to, break it down. But what's interesting is now he's talking about the digital system that at this point nobody should I mean, it's quite obvious. No one can pretty much ignore this new digital infrastructure that's being constructed all around us. But these other camps that teach against the mark of the beast being the RFID, the CHIP, they're now starting to include this new digital system in their talking point in association with this prophecy. I find that very interesting because, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we were being scoffed, at the idea of, this system and how the charagma, the mark, is going to be based on this technological infrastructure that's being set up. They didn't believe this. They scoffed that idea. We were being called a bunch of conspiracy theorists. But how convenient now that, we're getting closer and they're starting to see what this devil is doing. All these gradual technological biometrical systems that's being implemented worldwide. They know that they can't ignore that anymore. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we were being scoffed for talking about this. The mark had more so to do with this man's philosophy, his ability to influence you to commit sin. And if he's able to influence you to commit sin, then that means that you got the mark, the charagma. So it was always a spiritual thing with these guys. So why are they mentioning this whole digital system? But I'm going to play the video to let y'all hear how he breaks it down, because it's almost sounding like he's going in the same direction that Nate and the IUIC is going. Now, just in case GMS is right and they decide to finally, make it to where you got to actually put a technological device in you, because that's, hey, what is the fourth industrial revolution? The objective is to merge man with machine, right? They want to blur the lines between technology, science, and biology. All right. So now they're talking about digital systems and digital IDs. They weren't talking about this before. So I want, hey, what's going on with you dudes? Y'all need to quit pussyfooting and stop, like it says in 1 Corinthians, the 14th chapter. You blowing that uncertain sound. So how could somebody prepare themselves? Let me get that. Because the truth is straightforward, is plain. Where is it at? Did I pass it? Yeah, here it is. 1 Corinthians 14:7 says, and even things without life giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped? For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle? All right, and when you go to Ezekiel the 13th chapter, these false prophets, all right, they're being condemned for basically making that uncertain sound. You're not preparing Israel for what they need to be prepared for, because you creating all kind of gray areas, you confusing them, you twisting and misinterpreting scriptures. You're not being straightforward with it, man. Some of you sold out, of course, and some of you're just straight up blinded, and you can't really see it. But let me get this real quick. This is Ezekiel 13 and 2. It says, Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Israel that prophesy, and say thou unto them that prophesy out of their own hearts, hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, woe unto the foolish prophets that follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. They out there just following their own spirit, man, and don't have the spirit. Not giving a sound counsel and really not bringing things down properly the way it's supposed to. So when that time comes, because the mark of the beast, that's one of the final prophecies. Right after that prophecy, then it goes right into the judgment. And the judgment is basically the day the Lord returns. So that's how that's one of the final prophecies. So that's why we must constantly talk about it and make sure that we're giving you the true, correct understanding on it so that you'll be prepared. That's what a true prophet that have the spirit on him, that's what he would do. So it says, O Israel, thy prophets are like the foxes in the deserts. You have not gone up into the gaps, neither made up the hedge for the house of Israel to stand in the battle in the day of the Lord. And you got to get you ready to the battle. The battle is for your salvation. It's a matter of everlasting life or the second death. So can't be ignorant in these matters, man. Like it says in Sirach, be ye not ignorant, not in a small matter nor a great. So let's get into it. Because now he's mentioning about this new digital system, and then we see what the IUIC is doing. They're trying to position themselves to say when that time comes. Well, we did mention to you about a system that's going to be based on technology and digital. We talked about that. And they're going to try to force you and encourage you to, accept their new world order and their beast system in order for you to buy and sell. We told you that. Nah, you wasn't specific though. And you said everything to not say that it's that device, that implantable device. But let's get into it.
Babylonian system, that new world order.
Let me bring it back.
Issuers direct treasury to explode. That's why we go into the market.
So now they're going into the digital monetary system. When the idea of that was scoffed at among these other Israelite camps. So let's see.
The beast accepting their philosophies.
See, he's still saying accepting their philosophies. What are you talking about? We don't. We're able to buy and go to work right now, and we don't accept their philosophies. That right now that doesn't have an effect on my ability to be able to do transactions, to be able to buy and sell in this society. But now, yeah, they are starting to get more enhanced when it comes to digital surveillance and monitoring, your content and what you post. All right, what you saying on social media, and then you could be found out. They're setting all the measures for that. All right, everything is getting more and more monitored. They're setting up they're coming up with the Gideon threat detection system. That's a new form of surveillance. You got Palantir. They're trying to merge, health with Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley and the WHO and the WEF, they all are merging, setting up this entire global digital database. Anyway, let's keep going.
Right.
And also one thing, because they still talk about philosophy, right? If you accept their philosophies, then you got it. But what about the Babylonian wine? What about the wine in the golden cup? All right, that's in her hand. That made nations to be drunken. What does that represent? So is the mark philosophy, or is the wine dealing with the philosophy? I'm just saying, because I still, when I hear other groups mention that, it's like, okay, you mentioning that, and we understand that, Esau, he has the image and then he has his mark. But what about that wine? The wine and the mark are two separate things. We can prove that the wine represents philosophy. So let's continue.
Conforming to their image. You selling out, not speaking the truth, not speaking against the society. You may prosper. You're going to be able to live. But if you stand 10 toes down for Yahweh Shemel Shai, you might get cut out, huh? Right? U.S. Treasury weighs digital ID.
Well, right now they're working on cutting us out of social media. They might cut us out as far as using these different social media platforms. But talk about cutting us completely out of society. That's in the works. Okay, but as of now, we standing upon the truth. But we're still able to go to work. We're still able to go to the grocery store. We're still able to go and hit the gym. We can still do all that right now. You'll see. You're gonna know when this man finally comes, with the final solution. When he comes through with that final solution, then you're gonna know. And then, like the scriptures say in Ezekiel, then shall be known that a prophet have been among you. And you false prophets, you're going to be convicted. You're going to be confounded by the true prophets. That's when that moment is going to hit you. And don't be trying to act all like, you were one of the ones that was front and center and pushing it when it finally happens. Don't try to go back and act like you was always down with that idea. No, you scoffed. You did hours and hours of live shows getting back at us. All right, and I'm talking about all these different groups, not just this brother in particular, but they all know who they are.
To tackle illicit finance, right? So let me. I'm not gonna read this whole thing. It says the consultation published this week.
And see, they don't know that they're getting closer and closer to what we've been saying. They just still don't want to flat out say it. They'll go around it because they don't want to, it's out of pride. But the fact that they're even mentioning this new digital system, what do you think the C-hip is going to be based off of? That's how he's going to mark you and identify you. He wants to be able to see everything about you while his system is attached physically to you. That's a way to get you to show your allegiance to him. Give your body over to him. Just like we glorify the Lord in our bodies. Well, if you want to show your allegiance, you got to give your body to him. All right. What did they do in the ancient world when they had property, when they had cattle? They would brand that cattle. They would mark it. Matter of fact, I want to let's go to that Greek word stigma real quick. This is from Galatians 6:17. It says, "From henceforth, let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Yahweh Shai." And that word marks is a stigma, which is the same, one of the same words, all right, that's contained in the breakdown of 666 in the Greek, which is a high-sized stigma. All right, the number 6 is a stigma, to stick, i.e. prick. And it says a mark incised or punched for recognition of ownership, and that's identification. All right, recognition of ownership. Like right now, we have our IDs. It's in card form, and whatever state that you live in, the state pretty much have ownership to a certain extent, where you got to get licensed under the state in order for you to get permission to do whatever. And now it has to be under the new real ID system. All right, so you got the state ID. All right, but then eventually it's gonna have to get more biometrical and more closer, because you can lose your ID card, But what about when it comes in the form of an implant, a device that's always going to be in you? So no matter where you go in the world, you could be identified. You could be traced. You could be monitored. It says, i.e. figuratively, scar of service, mark. And then in a usage definition, it says a mark pricked in or branded upon the body. To ancient Oriental usage, slaves and soldiers bore the name or the stamp of their master or commander, branded or pricked, cut into their bodies, to indicate what master or general they belong to. In this case, the beast. The beast would be able to identify who belongs to him. And those who consent to it, that means that they bow to his image. They're saying that, hey, this system is God level. It's very convenient. Once I, get it, I don't have to pull out no money. My children can't get lost. I'll never lose them. If I'm going blind, it has the ability to restore my eyesight. So there's even miracles, left hand pseudo miracles being done by this technology. So these people will see these things and they'll feel comfortable giving their body over to the beast. And at that point, you pretty much belong to the beast. It says, and there were even some devotees who stamped themselves in this way with the token of their gods. Okay. And this is how you would also brand your cattle. Okay. So this is an identification method, slave identification, basically. All right. So this is implying it's physical. So let's get back.
Stems from the newly enacted Guiding and Establishing National Innovation and U.S. Stablecoins, which is Genius Act, signed in July. The act, which sets out regulatory framework for payment stablecoin issuers, directs Treasury to expose new compliance technologies, including application programming interfaces, artificial intelligence, digital ID verification, and blockchain monitoring. Right? So they're working with, the Treasury is working with other banks to also look at what you're posting digitally to see if you're going to be allowed to move in a society, to make stuff shake. So it's beyond just YouTube. If you got government assistance, you got food stamps, you got WIC, you got certain things, you're going to be cut out.
And it's all going to be in the form of UBI eventually, which is why a lot of people are getting pushed out of the workforce and replaced by AI, because they already got it set up that your money is going to be in digital form. We're going to be able to program the money that you get on this platform. Like right now with this whole SNAP benefit situation, they're now programming those stamps to only cover certain types of food. You can't just get junk food with it now. So if you try to run it through the kiosk and try to pay for it with a snack, with the SNAP card, it's going to decline. So they're already showing you the conditions of how this is going to run. But notice that he's going into the digital aspect of the monetary system. So where do you think is going to go next? Based on what these puppet world leaders have been introducing and speaking about at these World Economic Forum meetings. And I'm gonna play a video clip, right after I'm done with this. But it's like you see it, but you still can't see it, and that's an issue. We see it clear as day, and the more we get closer, the more confident you're gonna see us, because we know for sure, man.
And only people that accept the sodomy, that speak up, it's like that accept this Babylonian system, that new world order, that accept freakism and transformers and sin and what the so-called Jews are allowed to do. You won't speak against the so-called Jew. You're gonna be able to prosper because you have accepted their philosophy of sin, of wickedness, of confusion. You believe it in your mind, and people
see, and that's and that's still the old way. That the way they teaching it, the way he's breaking it down. You accept it in your mind, and then you do it. Like that's having it in your forehead and in your hand. No, that's not. See, you can be somebody like, take for example, these liberals. They believe in these philosophies. They believe in this wicked lifestyle. They conform to this world. But let somebody like that, they believe all of this stuff, but but I don't agree with getting this implant. I think it infringes on my privacy and my rights. I don't want to get that. I still rather deal with cash. You know what's going to happen? He accepts everything else, but this person don't agree with that. He rather lives off grid and do him. You guess what's going to happen? He's going to be cut off. So I get what he's trying to say, but it's still not going to make sense until he fully understand what the overall objective is. They've been trying to tell you. Aaron Russo told you. Okay? They've been telling you in these films, in these movies, what it's going to be. The World Economic Forum, they've been trying to tell you. Klaus Schwab, that's why I'm going to play this clip next. Because this is what he still fails to understand. It goes beyond, just accepting an ideology in your mind. Now you can believe all that and keep it a secret to this devil, and still get around in this system, but he's gonna actually corner everybody with that C-hip, just like everybody was being cornered when it came to that jump shot. But you had to get it and show proof that you got it if you wanted to function in society, or you was cut off. You didn't have to believe in being a Mo. You didn't have to believe in, the Babylonian philosophies, feminism or whatever. It had nothing to do with that. The requirement was you need to show proof that you've been shot up in your arm if you want to get into this restaurant or this store. So let me play this now. This is what he's ignoring.
Like, really, it's not a card.
And this is posted this 11 months ago. All right, the rollout for digital IDs, because now you're going to be held accountable. Now that you even bringing this up, you're talking about digital IDs now, IUIC, WFI. I don't even think ISUPK even talks about that. But now that you're acknowledging this and you're bringing up the MOTB and association, well, look where this is going to go. So let me play this.
It's some credentials that are given to you that you then use in the way you want to, and only share the information that you want to with certain people. So it's privacy protecting, and I think that's a very, very important point.
I suppose in a world where none of us go anywhere without a mobile phone, it would be ever so handy to have your passport, your driving license on there. Speaking as someone who picked up her daughter's passport recently, went off on holiday and then couldn't go because I got the wrong one. Always got my phone. But the world's moved on, perhaps.
Well, I totally get what you're saying in terms of convenience. Whether it's a passport, whether it's a national insurance number, whether it's your driving license, we could go on and on and on. And you can have all that for convenience sake. But equally, Tracy, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be jumping out of their skin and go, oh, that infringes my human rights. That is the Big Brother state taking over. So there is this massive practical aspect to all of this, which would help all of us in our day-to-day lives. And there is this intrusion aspect as well.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I think what's happening is there are lots of different types of digital identity system. So, for example, in China, as you probably know, they have...
And like a video that was posted, I believe it was by Arrows of Indignation. I think it was this channel, but he posted this guy in a cowboy hat. He sounded like he was a Christian, but he was basically saying around this particular prophecy, he said, you better be able to identify. Basically when it comes, you better be able to identify, the mark in his system when it comes. And you're going to be tempted. Everybody's going to be tempted. As Revelation 3 and 10. Because you have kept the word of my patience, I will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which is to try. All right, it's gonna try everybody that dwell on the face of the earth. All right, so you better be able to identify it when it's here. when it's made mandatory, because you're going to be faced with a decision to make. And those of you that still, you still beating around the bush, or you still acting like you don't know, or even some of you that are paid off, you're gonna draw a lot of people to destruction, man. But like the Lord said, if the blind shall lead the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, they both shall fall into a ditch.
This kind of social credit scoring system, but they have a unique identity. I think it's 18 digits, and that is linked to lots of the services that they access. Similarly, there is the Aadhaar system in India. Again, that is anchored with a biometric, in fact, 2 biometrics. I think it's fingerprint and facial recognition. Yeah.
So now it's starting to become more physical. All right. Where they're basically trying to trace you, with data information, but they're doing it more so with bodily contact. All right. They're going to start phasing out ID cards. Things that you can, dispose out of your hand. They want your iris. They want your fingerprint. And then eventually they're going to want to go beyond that, because that's on the surface of your body. A fingerprint, scanning your iris, that's on the surface of your body. But what about in your body? All right. What about it not being just on your skin, but under your skin, which means it's in you? Which the prophecy said that you're going to receive a charagma in your head, in your forehead, or in your hand, your right hand. So just think about that.
Face print. And that's a system that gives access to government services. But again, that is very centralized. What we're talking about in the UK, which is already underway, which is one of the interesting and odd things about this intervention from Tony Blair and Lord Hague, is it's already underway that we have a decentralized system where we are given credentials that don't allow the government to track us necessarily. Nobody's really looking at every time we do an interaction. It's really more about sharing the data in an encrypted way so that we do have our privacy protected, and so that we aren't, as you say, in a situation where we have our civil liberties infringed, and certainly in a way that we're not even, we don't have any knowledge of who's looking at our personal data. With the verifiable credentials in these sorts of new systems, they sit in your digital wallet and you have absolute control over how they're used. Well, that is the theory anyway.
Now, let me just put it blatantly.
Now here we go. Now, pay attention to this one. This was almost a year ago. But this is what Bill Gates planned on doing. All right. And this is what they want to do worldwide. And they test these systems amongst these underdeveloping countries. They test it amongst the poor, people that's not going to know any better. So listen to this.
The program targets the birth of new babies. So once you have your baby, before your baby leaves the hospital, you no longer get a paper birth certificate, but then you get a digital one that is somehow implanted somewhere on somebody's body. Think about that, but have a listen to this.
Implanted in your body. Because an implant is something that's inserted. All right, it's an incision. So it's going in your body. We talking about digital IDs, and they're acknowledging that digital IDs is in association with this beast system, the image, right?
The digital ID, which has been a big problem to us for a very long time, is now on a testing mode for the next 2 months. I have been assured by all the stakeholders, led by the ministries concerned, that by December, we will be able to launch digital ID, where every Kenyan don't have to carry any paper, plastic or otherwise, as an ID, that they should be able to be identified digitally using their iris.
We're taking things that are,
Hold on, let me run that back.
Think about that, but have a listen to this.
The digital ID, which has been a big problem to us for a very long time, is now on a testing mode for the next 2 months. I have been assured by all the stakeholders, led by the ministries concerned, that by December, we will be able to launch digital ID, where every Kenyan don't have to carry any paper, plastic or otherwise, as an ID, that they should be able to be identified digitally using their iris.
we're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
Kenya is in serious trouble. Now, for you to accept this, that means you're going to be completely surveilled and controlled. Think about it. So,
Yep. 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices. But you do got them dumb dogs out there.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de plus qu'on pourra s'en...
This is Klaus Schwab, right? Which, he stepped down from the head of the WEF thing, but this was back in 2016, January 2016. All right, that they was talking about this. So when they talk about stuff, you better believe it's on the agenda, and eventually it's going to gradually be implemented. They're going to work towards the steps of implementing this entire solution.
Planté, ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir.
Yeah, certainly in the next 10 years. So 10 years from 2016, 2026, we're heading into the last quarter of 2015. So we're approaching 2016. See? Let's continue to peep what comes out of this devil's tongue.
Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau.
See that? Just read the annotation. And then we could imagine that we will implant them in our brains or in our skin. And this ain't just, well, we wish we can do that. No, he's saying, imagine that we will. He's for certain that they will be doing this. And you don't think Trump, the puppet that he is right now, you don't think that the elites is going to set that up through him? For you Babylonians, he's going the digital technological route. He's going the blockchain crypto route. The big beautiful bill. What was that? AI, Stargate. All this stuff. He's going that route.
Et à la fin, peut-être il...
Oh, and the same Trump that said we're going to make a biometric entry exit data tracking system. Remember when he said that before he even got in his first term? He made mention of that. So Trump will definitely be that guy. All right, and if he was to drop dead, hey, JD, his right hand man, he'll just step up to the plate and implement what Trump would have done. This is all set up. The elites, this is what they want.
Il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion.
See that? Hold up, let me run that back. See, they won't go this deep into it. The Naquams, the Deacon Malachiah, they ain't gonna go this deep into it. It says what we see is kind of fusion of the physical, digital, and biological world. That's the objective. That's getting that charagma, that mark into you. That's the purpose of them putting it in your forehead or in your hand. This is what they're refusing to see.
Du monde physique, digital et biologique.
No, I think maybe in a couple of decades, when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored, that we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian machines, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. Because really we haven't seen anything yet. I think that the big process that's happening right now in the world is hacking human beings, the ability to hack humans.
When I make a phone call, if I don't have an earpiece, I have to take this flat piece of material, put it against my curved head, and hold my arm up in an awkward position. And sooner or later, this light phone gets heavier and heavier. It is not optimum for speech. You, in your generation, certainly the next generation, will have the phone maybe embedded under the skin there, their ear, and they'll get they won't have to have charging, which is a real pain, as you know, because your body is a perfect charger.
How have the central bankers, this is my last slide because my 12 minutes are just up, have reacted to the truth coming out? They admit that they've been telling porkies, and now they propose to increase their power. So central bankers belatedly admit, oh, now that you've mentioned it, yes, banks create the money supply. So let's abolish that now. And also, by the way, let's abolish cash. So what should we do? Well, introduce digital cyber currency that central banks issue and control, and thereby gain total.
And Naquam, he mentioned stablecoin. All right, these are all pilot programs, just to act as buffers, trial runs. You had Walletmore, you had all these different pilot programs and different apps. You got Apple Pay. All right. All these systems are just for conditioning purposes. So the masses, when they finally implement the final product, the masses will have been used, to this system. All right. And it's all gonna be tied together. Your status, your medical, your financial, all of that, man. Your social credit, it's all going to be tied together. That's all going to make up your digital identity.
Control over all economic transactions, decisions, and the whole lot you've just heard from the CEO of the GDI. So the greatest concentration of central banking power in history is really the bid they're aiming at. That's the central bank's goal. And of course, digital accounts of dissenters and regime critics could be switched off. It'd be very difficult to even purchase necessities. So this is an Orwellian dystopia of total control, the end of any freedoms. That's really what central banks are aiming at. Several central banks have, like the Bank of England, already prepared their microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin. Microchip implant RFID chip to be implanted under your skin. And why is there sudden discussion about universal basic income from all the grassroots and inverted commas movements and billionaires? Oh,
yeah, your UBI, which is, you know, if you want still want your WIC, your SNAP, you want, you know, all these benefits, it's gonna come in the form of that UBI he's talking about. A lot of our people, they're gonna give in. It's gonna be such a good deal for them because they're gonna be desperate to get back to normal, to keep their comfort. So they're definitely gonna give in, and they're gonna give their body over to the beast to be marked. All right. And then some of you Israelites, because you listen to these guys who's not being truthful, who's being very uncertain with their trumpet sound, you're going to think because of that gray area that was, you know, left, that you somehow might be able to, you know, use the system. You know, you might use certain things that Paul said, like resist not the powers that, you know, that be. The powers that be are ordained of the Most High, or use this world but not as abuse it. You know, to try to, you know, rationalize it and justify it in your head. The moment you do that, it's over with. You failed the test. You failed the hour of temptation. And they're not, and these leaders, they're not preparing you, man.
Universal basic income is the bribe for you to accept the microchip. The overarching trend of the 20th century is concentration of power in the hands of the few. That's what we have to keep in mind. We have to work against this. We don't want to have these unaccountable central planners making decisions. We need decentralization, and the solution, therefore, is to maintain public money in the hands of local community banks, decentralize decision-making, give local people the power in the form of local public banks and local not-for-profit community banks. As I walked in, I was delighted to see that the Gottlieb Duttweiler Institute is also about Genossenschaft and cooperatives. And of course, the majority of banks in Germany are cooperative banks. And that's really what we need.
All right, so, I mean, you could see, all right, they've been promoting this. All right, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, you know, you could watch this video. I had this uploaded like 11 months ago. The rollout for digital IDs under the skin is starting. Will you other groups stay in denial? And I remember putting this up, so that's why, you know, going back to this lesson here.
So let me, I'm not going to read.
And the fact that they're bringing up this new digital system and digital IDs. Now, you're held. You dudes are held responsible, man. All right, you're gonna be held responsible for what you know. All right, and I'm gonna end off on that note. Let's go to Proverbs 24. Proverbs 24 and 11, and it says, if thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, in this case, the second death, you know, you take that mark and worship the image, that's where you're going to be. It says, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not. You know, we didn't know. Doeth not he that pondereth the heart consider it? And he that keepeth thy soul, doeth not he know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? So you're going to be held responsible, especially if you call yourself a prophet, a watchman, you know, even a bishop, because a bishop is supposed to be an overseer. All right, it says, I'm going to read verse 12 in the NLT. It says, don't excuse yourself by saying, look, we didn't know. For the Most High understands all hearts and he sees you. He who guards your soul knows you knew. He will repay all people as their actions deserve. So, like my man said, the dude with that cowboy hat, you better be able to identify, and you better be letting your people know and identifying it to the people that are listening and watching and following. Or you're going to be destroyed right along with them. So, that's pretty much the lesson. Hopefully y'all edified. I'm going to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Until the next lesson, Shalom.
So the question is, if it's going to be like it was in the days of Noah and the devil tried to pollute the whole human race, how's he going to try to do it this time? What's he going to try to do to keep Jesus from coming back where he ultimately loses? What's he going to do? Is he going to try to pollute the human race again? Maybe. How would you do that? I don't know. Tech? Maybe. Again, nobody really knows. These are question marks. But you can read it for yourself and start to put things together. My whole goal is not to convince anybody of anything. My whole goal is to make you think for a minute, go read it for yourself, because if you're alive on this earth when this starts happening and you're a Christian, you need to be able to identify what it is you are seeing.
So